Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. It's Ruth Carter, the Liberty Coach, and I'm here today with another Parenting Live. I hope you've had a wonderful week. It is now the start of a new month, and I'm wondering what your goals are. I had mentioned earlier in my Facebook post about feeling a shift. When I posted on Instagram, I had some comments come up, and I want to ask you, since the start of January, have you felt an internal shift that has caused you to have maybe extra motivation, a little bit of a drive, an awareness that we've got 6 more months to the end of the year, and are you working on what you want to achieve? And they could be personal, business, or family goals. So today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the physical rites of passage, which is featured in the second session of Strengthening Families, Strengthening Communities parenting course. I personally have gained a lot out of the rites of passage, which is why I'm sharing it with you, because I've had comments from parents saying that their children are bored. It's been a while. It's been, what, 15, 16 weeks now. And we still got a few months ahead, especially for those that are in secondary school, to go to school in September. So you may be finding that some of the activities that you are currently doing, they might be getting bored or fed up of the same thing. So it's really important for all of us, including the children, to find different activities. And I found that the physical rites, well, all the rites of passage, kind of touch on an element where there's so many different activities. Some weeks there are 11, some weeks there are 16, but you don't have to pick all of them. But if you can pick one that resonates with you, try it out with your child, see how they get on with it, because it is about exploring and learning more about our individual children as they grow up. So I'm just gonna kick off as we would do in like the session. We would read to the parents what the topic is, and then I'm gonna share the steps with you, and then I will just give you one of the pointers that I've addressed. And it was actually this week with some parents in my local neighborhood, and I'm going to share that with you. So we'll just kick off. If you do have your parenting manual, then please follow along. And if you don't have a parenting manual, do not worry, because I have mine here and I will read it out. So, physical rite of passage, here is what it says. We must remind our children that if they mistreat their bodies, they will break down. Our children need to understand that you are what you eat. Proper nutrition, rest, relaxation, and exercise are all important if they are to maintain sound bodies and sound minds. We must teach our children the facts of life, giving them only as much information as they can understand. We must instill in our children to have healthy attitudes towards sex and the importance of responsible sexual behaviour. The suggested activities that follow will help you assist your child in making the physical journey from childhood to adulthood. Now, I mentioned the word sex a couple of times, and I know that some of your children are very young in age. Some that I work with are as young as 5, the parents that I'm working with. And yes, it comes up. People will be like, oh, that's a bit too young. No, it does come up. I remember working with and supporting a family, and the daughter was 5, and a child had asked her in the toilet at school, and it was all brought up. So what I'm sharing was all brought up, and all the safeguarding measures were in place. But the young boy asked the young girl to show her underneath. Now, she did the right thing. She told the teacher, she told her mum, and her mum contacted the school, had conversations with the school. But it just so happened that I was coaching. There was 3 siblings, and I was coaching them at that time. And we had to have a discussion about it. So that I find that the pants program works very well for young children, so they can get to understand and identify their sexual organs and have an awareness, one for hygienic purposes, especially when children are young now and you're getting them out of nappies, going into nursery. It's important that children know how to wipe themselves adequately, how to keep good hygiene, especially when they are in the environment of school, because it is independent. And by the time your child gets to school, it is the premise that they know how to take care of their own toiletry needs. Now, this does all come under the physical rites of passage because it is their own physical body that they need to have full awareness of. And when anything is array and not going right, that they can know who to call or who to reach out to and share and say what is happening. So I am going to quickly go through this, and I just want to welcome anyone who is watching now live or on the replay. If you would love to leave a comment, just put hashtag replay, and I will get back to you as quickly as possible. So let's move on to step 1. It says, if you did manage to read the blog post, all of the information is there and all the activities are there. So pop over, I've posted the link and you can get to read and follow along. So number 1, it says, step 1, help your child learn about nutrition, develop healthy eating habits, and learn how to prepare foods. Now, the wonderful thing with social media is people take lots of pictures and videos. I have seen firsthand on some of my friends' pages the interaction of their children cooking the meals. And they were young in terms of they could have been young teenagers or 11, 12, 13, that kind of age group, cooking up lovely meals. So I want to know, have you been cooking meals with your children? I tell you what, my daughter's been cooking some beautiful meals, and they have been nutritious and very, very healthy. So some of the ideas that you can do is to shop, to cook, prepare, serve, and store your food. So we're learning things like where to put certain things in the refrigerator or the freezer. Where these are all things that we're helping our children to learn and do, because it would have an impact on our physical ability. Can you imagine, giving your child spoilt milk to drink because it was stored in the cupboard instead of the fridge? You might think, oh, that's basic, everybody knows, but the reality is some people don't know. If you've never been told or shown, how would you know where to store the milk? And we don't need to wait until they're older to implement these things. They get to see and learn from what they hear. So if they see you putting the milk in the fridge and that they know that's where it goes, they are likely to pick up that same habit, because they would have become accustomed to drinking fresh milk instead of it being curdly. Number 2, step 2, help your child. This is very, very important. Help your child maintain personal hygiene and physical and dental health care. Now, with number 2, I am privileged to have worked in many, many, many secondary schools. I emphasize on the word many just to prove the point that it's not one school that this may come across. You may come across it in any school setting. And no, it's not even a school setting. It can come anywhere, because there are some grown adults that may not keep up with their personal hygiene as they ought to. I only refer to children because they're young, they're growing, they're expanding, and that's the key opportunity of giving your children the tools so that when they get to adulthood, they know. So, for example, I have walked into many a classroom. The first thing I need to do is open up the window to get some fresh air because I am smelling body, perspiration, sweat, and it doesn't have to be in the heat of the summer. Sometimes this is in the winter, and it could be something as simple as continuing to wear dirty shirts or having the one shirt for the week. No, it doesn't work. You really need to change clothes every single day, and that is underwear as well as the overlay of the clothes that you're wearing. And this is something that we need to help our children to be embedded while they're young, so that when they grow up, they're in the habit of having daily washes, brushing their teeth twice a day, more if necessary, that they are washing their bodies, that they're using the right deodorant or antiperspirant, because there are two differences. One's, for the sweat, one's for the smell. So we really need to know how our physical bodies are working, and you can teach your children that from a very, very young age, because it is important. And I know, like with the situation that we are now coming out of lockdown, you've had the impact with the dental. People may not be wanting to go. I know people are suffering right now with toothache, and because certain health measures are not in place, you want to make sure that your patients are safe, but you need to also, the professional staff, the dentists need to keep themselves safe. And for those of you that are suffering, there is always accident and emergency, but I just wanted to bring it to attention that if your children are suffering, they are saying go to the doctors with their teeth, I'm talking, or even their health, go to the doctors and they will advise accordingly. So, number 3, help your child develop and implement regular exercise routine and plan for adequate rest and relaxation. Well, what time does your child go to bed? Because I have to say that this week my rest and relaxation has gone out of the window. I personally have developed a relationship with sleep over the years. It is something that I really have admiration for the benefits that I get because I'm rested, my head doesn't feel so fuzzy. But sometimes when I'm having too many late nights, I'm not resting, I'm not relaxing, it does have an ability, well, see, on my focus and things like that. So for children, it's even more exacerbated because it comes out in their behavior. They get more irritable, much more frustrated a lot quicker when they're not getting adequate rest. So the harmony and balance is, we eat well, we rest well, we exercise, and this is something that, we want to be able to implement quite in an early age with our children, just so that they feel, you know, a sense of well-being in their minds, and not just their minds, but in their bodies as well. Number 4. Now, with this one, as I've mentioned previously, this course is designed to help young children as well as those entering into the teenage years and phases. Now, I work with young people, and I also do courses that are on the lines of healthy relationships, which this one would kind of factor into. But there will come a time in your child's life, in their growth and development, that you may have to talk about things that you might not be comfortable with, but you may need to get comfortable with it because the information is probably best coming from you than from other people. And then when other people talk, it just, underpins what you've already told your child about this particular area. So I'll mention it now. Because I am aware that some of you are have young children, and some of your children are 13, teenage years, but it is something that as parents we got to talk about. It says, help your child develop sexual responsibility behavior as it relates to human sexuality. So, this in regards, I would start with where, the body's changing for young people, especially sometimes you could be in primary school and start having the development. I was having a lovely conversation with my neighbours this week, where two of the mothers, they've both got daughters, and they're the age of 8, and we were talking about the development of breasts and training bras, and then we got onto the subject of periods. Now, these two young ladies, they haven't started, but the mothers were sharing with me their fears about having that discussion. So, what I was basically contributing to that conversation was, wouldn't it be best coming from you about periods? Because I have seen children thinking that they were going to die when their periods have started, and they've been unprepared. They don't have a pad. It's very embarrassing to have to be in school or out and have to ask someone. I've always said, have a little pad with you. I remember when my daughter was going for that stage, we just put a little pad in the back. We don't know when it's going to start, but it will come at some point in time. And sometimes they could be at home, but most likely they may not. But you would want your child to be prepared ahead of the game, feeling confident that this is a natural part of life. Again, this is the physical rites of passage for young girls. Then you have with the boys, their body changes too. I am fortunate that I have an open relationship with my son, and I also have the support of his father where we co parent. So he's my first and only son, and boys are very much different to girls. Now, it's only when my son was a baby that I kind of understood when I was changing his nappy, first change in the morning, and the little dinky is hard. I was like, oh, it happens from this age. So at least then for me, it was a new revelation. It was a new understanding, because it was kind of like, oh, they're not happy to see me. But keeping on track, these are conversations that boys go through. They have wet dreams. They, may mess up the sheets a little, and you have to have the conversation with them, because it is about their physical rites of passage. This is an acknowledgement within their body that they are changing, they are transitioning, and it is okay. There is nothing to fear. There is nothing taboo about that. It is just a natural progress that they will go through. Now, in regards to my son, I have been fortunate, like I say, to have his father in his life, and I have been able to ask him to have chats with him on certain topics, because sometimes, my son was like, oh, at school they were talking about this again. Oh, we're talking about CSE. Oh, and he gets really frustrated. But I'm like saying, listen here, right? Just because you got it the first time round and you're acting accordingly doesn't mean that works for everyone else. Because some children, young people, are getting caught up in situations that they necessarily was not yet prepared for, because somebody never had the conversation with them on how to be safe, how to protect themselves. And this we can start implementing from an early age, such as, keeping your private parts clean, that no one touches it. And should something be happening along those lines, who to go to, who to be talking to. And I'll just be frank, some who have mobile phones, iPhones. I don't know what you do before iPhone 9, but there's no parental controls on Safari. So when they click in X blah blah blah, whatever it is, and they're seeing things, and then they're inviting their friends to come, oh, look at this, look at that. But that's all being done without any adult involved, no one guiding them. I'm of the mind, have the conversation with your child, because believe you me, as they get older, it will continue. And at least you'll be the one that they can come to and ask, and your reactions are not going to put them off in any way, but only enhance their personal and physical development. So, gosh, gone quick today. So, number 5, help your child learn about how the physical development, mental and spiritual all work together. So I'll read that again. It's like, help your child learn about how the physical, developmental, mental and spiritual all work together. You know, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and we are developing at different stages. I would hate for anyone to feel fear over their body on things that are naturally happening, but just through, I don't know, don't want to say ignorance, but just through lack of knowledge and direction, they haven't come to the knowledge of what the body does. I'm not a doctor. I am not a doctor. I am not medically trained. But as a female, I know enough from what my mother told me. And when you go shopping and you're buying pads and you're getting that's something I did with my mom. She helped me through that rites of passage, making sure that I was prepared for that part. And as that young girl who's now become a mother, who has a daughter, you do the same thing. That I have a son, so I've done as much as I can, but I've also know that I'm not male. I didn't know the functions of the men on a day-to-day basis until I was involved in those types of relationships. But my son as a baby, I was like, oh, that's a physical thing that the males go through. So it was enlightening to me. And so therefore, having those discussions, whether you're parents together, co-parenting, if you've got family members that are males that can help raise your boys, and especially on their physicality and what's happening, because some children are having feelings very young in age, and they do need to be guided really properly so that they don't impose on other innocent children while they're going through their level of development. So, last but not least, it says, help your child learn how to avoid drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. So it depends on what kind of household you have. You have households that have alcohol, like I have alcohol in my house, I have wine in my house. Have the children, well, they're grown now, but have they had tipples when they were younger? Yes, sensible. Tipple. Like, at Christmas, you might have a little bit, you've got chaleur and things like that. Nothing hard, but just maybe a little tiny bit would have given them. I know the French do that quite a lot, because in some European countries they have wine on the table. It's part of everyday life. It's not a taboo thing. But sometimes when it's not done sensibly, what you might find is that people overdo it. So then, I do well-being programs for children in school. So what I'm finding, when you're asking about the smoking, they're like, oh, are you going to tell anyone? Are you going to tell the teachers? And I'm like, no, I just want to know if you're smoking, if you take drugs, if have alcohol, what's your drinking style like? Only because whilst delivering an NLP well-being program, It's about behavior change, and it can change all behaviors. So sometimes some of the young people are at the start on that, and at the end, some have just volunteered to give up the smoking, give up the drinking, give up the drug taking, and some haven't. Those that haven't given up the drug take, I'm talking about school age young people now. So you're talking about year nines and tens, maybe, smoking weed. Yes, yes, yes. And I will say to them, why? Why is that? Why are you doing that? And they say because they're bored in their area. They're bored. I'm like, where are you getting the money from for that? Parents, innit? They get their pocket money. So I'm like, okay, because it's very interesting information so that I can know how to change that behavior. Because sometimes if that's still there at the end, I kind of want to know what can I do to help you, because this is about physical rites of passage. It's about, are you stunting your growth with the amount of alcohol you're consuming? Are you damaging your liver? Are you impacting your health and well-being as a result of the behaviors that you're doing? So if at all I'm able to help change them, if they want that changed, then definitely, but definitely their self-esteem and confidence have increased. But then there is always that little niggling thought in my mind that if they continue with some of these behaviors, what will be the long-term effects, especially if they're that young in age? And this all comes under the physical rites of passage. I have gone through them and I have a few minutes left, but I kind of mentioned there's 16 activities, and I had mentioned number 8, help your child to be aware of the physical changes in their body as they develop and grow. And this is what I was encouraging my 2 neighbours to do with their daughters, because they're 8. They're already starting to wear training bras. It would be such an easy conversation to have. And you know what I did quickly? I got them to reflect about the time when they started their period and how they felt, and would they like that for their child, and they said no. And I said it's just an easy conversation, because they're already starting with the training bras and they never used to have it before. You could start the conversation there. This is what's happening to your body, and these are the changes that are occurring. It is very natural. Some people celebrate it. I think I've heard of period parties and stuff like that. I don't know if I would have been down for a period party, but definitely you kind of felt you're stepping into womanhood, isn't it? Things are changing once that happens. And yeah, you could celebrate it or make a big deal out of it, but it's a part and a phase of life as we get older, from childhood to adulthood. So I can see I've got some comments there. So before I end, let me have a look. Yes. Hey, Sharon, good evening, my lovely. How are you? And how's your wonderful family this week? And I've got, what's this? Oh, good. So good for children to be prepared. Yeah, I think so. I think they need to be prepared, especially in this day and age. You know, look, I was working in a school in London. I think I've got a iPhone XR, year 11 student. No, not year 7 students. Like, I've got the same phone as you. I said, really? She goes, yeah, I've got the same. I said, do you work on that phone? And she's like, no. And I says, well, how did you get that phone? She goes, oh, my mum got it for me for Christmas. So I'm like, oh wow, that's a big old phone, XR, right? But say these phones have access to other information. We really need to be careful. I think certain things need to just come from the parents, the caregivers, the ones that are looking and raising and guiding the children, so that they have an awareness, and that they can transition into that phase very quickly. And I've got Carol. Good evening, Carol. Yes, that's absolutely fine, because I know that you're recovering. So I'm hoping that that is going well for you. But definitely we will catch up later. So everyone, can you believe that's the 30 minutes are gone? That's the physical rite of passage, like just given to you like that, very quickly, very swiftly this evening. But I do hope that you have something nice planned for those of my family and friends in the USA. Hope you have a lovely weekend this weekend as you'll be in the celebrations of Independence Day. Still, I hope keeping in with social distancing. We've all got to keep safe. Oh, so yes, Sharon, I'm with you on that, man. Not sure about the period party, but it's important to celebrate the next stage. Yes, I think so too, but I don't know if I would be going on an all-out party. But I suppose that'd be something to discuss with your child, because maybe your child is so liberated that they want the world to know that their period has started. But for me, I would have liked that bit of discretion, because sometimes, when young girls are into that phase, it changes. The hormones change. They kind of get a little moody. They experience cramps and things. And boys go through the same thing. They go through it differently, but their moods change. They grow. Their voices get deeper, and But what we want for our children is that they grow up to be wonderful citizens of the universe, that they know how to treat themselves, that they know how to treat their bodies well, that they will then treat and respect the bodies of other people, that they won't be so quick to take somebody else out. These are all skills that should ideally be implemented early on in life, but it is never, never, never too late to learn and change behaviors for the good. So I am going to leave you and love you in peace. Have a wonderful weekend. I will be. And yes, I'm with you. Definitely to be discreet. But I'm going to love you and leave you. I will be in touch, especially with you, Miss Fevrier. Okay, so everyone, and those that are you watching on the replay, what are your thoughts? Put them down in the comments. Just put #replay and I will respond. Thank you for your time. I'm going to leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening. God bless you. Mwah.